Hi all, I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. Today is Thursday, August 13th, 2020, and you're watching WGAN TV live at 5. Hi all, I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. Today is Thursday. I apologize. I can hear myself. Okay, good, I got that off that. So our show today, Introduction to 3D Vista Virtual Tour Pro software with home3d.us founder Kevin Dole. Kevin, good to see you again.
Hi, Dan. Hope you're well on the East Coast.
Thank you. Before we jump in for today's show, 3 questions for our audience. Have you been thinking about getting started with 3D Vista Virtual Tour Pro software? Are you seeking a way to differentiate yourself from other 3D 360 virtual tour photographers? Are you wondering about 3D Vista features? That's what Kevin Dole is going to talk to us about. Kevin, it really is good to see you again.
Likewise, Dan.
Thanks for being on the show today, again, joining us. You've been a Matterport service provider for a long time. You shoot Nodal View, iSpy 360, you use WP 3D models, WordPress plugin, drone, you're a professional still photographer, 3D Vista Virtual Tour Pro. Why are you adding yet another platform?
I look at the space of 3D tours, 360 tours, virtual tours. Obviously, this whole arena has expanded dramatically and is being brought to the public's view thanks to the pandemic. I wish it was some other reason, but it's been beneficial to us and to people that we're helping by doing these things. I started with Matterport. I've been a longtime photographer and filmmaker. My background was as a television commercial director for many years. And I started with Matterport when it was pretty early, about 4 years ago, maybe a little bit more, and just found the technology very interesting and dove in, bought the camera, started scanning and so forth. And Matterport is great for what it does. But as we all know, to use the sandbox expression, it doesn't play well outdoors. I live in California. I live in Los Angeles, and I work an area from Palm Springs to Santa Barbara, so forth, about a 50-mile radius around here. And in Los Angeles, the exterior of homes is, in many cases, as important, sometimes even more important than what's on the inside. Matterport did add a number of years back those little bubble views, the 360 views around the outside of a model, but it leaves a lot lacking in terms of communicating great about a property. I dove into GeoCV when it came along because, particularly because of GeoCV's outdoor view, which you can create with a good drone and software like Drone Deploy to create a 3D model. And that was able to show exterior properties with pools and gazebos and things like that, and actually create a 3D model of the whole outside. I was then also attracted to Nodal View. I particularly liked Nodal View. Some people are drawn to it because it's faster to shoot, simpler in that sense, but I also like the fact that the way it shoots with an iPhone creates higher resolution panoramas than the basic Matterport camera. You can go indoors and outdoors with it. And most important for me, like GeoCV, both Nodal View and GeoCV allow you to download the panos, touch them up if there was a dog running through the shot or there was no place for you to hide, so you curl up on a ball someplace against a simple background that you can paint out. You can take the panos and touch them up, put them back in the tour, and so forth. In addition, it occurred to me, that with the drone, you can shoot aerial panoramas and add them to a GeoCV tour or a nodal view tour. You weren't restricted to only what the camera will capture, such as in Matterport's case. Out here, I've shot lots of properties that are much better marketed because I was able to add one or more 360 panoramas either above the house and or even around the neighborhood, so that people can see, well, over there, there's the high school, over there's the city park and hiking trails and so forth. I'm going to show one of those examples. So I came to realize that as good as Matterport was and GeoCV was, neither one of them even pushed all the buttons or ticked all the boxes, as you say. And so I dove into, I've used a number of times iSpy.
iSpy 360.
360, it's sort of simple dollhouse is very attractive. I've had simple dollhouses created on Nodal View as well. And then I've always been conscious, though, that even with all these different technologies, they really tick most of the boxes when you come to residential real estate. But with the pandemic and I started getting calls from commercial brokers with office buildings and multi-tower office parks and all kinds of different situations wanting to present these properties through virtual tours. And I couldn't do it with any of these technologies. So I started studying around, and I would like to credit Ben Claremont, because I probably heard the name before, but first consciousness about what 3D Vista could do came from one of his videos less than a year ago, where he talked about the different platforms, and he ended up at the end saying, for his money at that time, 3D Vista was the winner. And so I started investigating it, and right about that time, I got a call from a commercial brokerage that had a 20-acre, 981 unit apartment community, and they wanted a virtual tour. And at that point, I had read enough about 3D Vista that I believed that it was the answer. So I asked one more question of the client. I said, when do you need this? and they answered back, says, well, the pandemic's underway. We're not sure exactly when we're going to get this, because they're actually putting the community up for market. At least that's the discussion. And he said, we don't need it right away. We've got time. I says, well, you got a month? No, he said, no problem. Says, you got a month and a half? I said, yeah, that'd be fine. And I said, okay, I'll take the job. And I bid it and downloaded 3D Vista, started looking through its depth and complexity, and immediately panicked, to be quite honest, because the program is so powerful and so complex that my head was spinning. So I reached out to.
So let me pause you there.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's the backstory for why adding yet another platform.
Right.
Before we continue this piece of the conversation, let's dive in. Let's have you actually show us a lot of different tours, and we'll pick up that question, that discussion, even maybe while you're talking about a tour.
Good. Yeah, I should share my screen. I should share my Chrome screen, I think. Share. Tell me if you see it.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to give a little preface by adding one more to this 10281 Pico. This is kind of like the preface to 3D Vista, because one of the first office projects I did. Now, for those who use or are familiar with WP 3D models, I've used that for 4 years, ever since I started Matterport on my website.
It's a WP 3D models WordPress plugin.
Correct. And this was done that way. This is a Matterport tour of a 4-story office building I think the total was about 40,000 square feet, something like that. And it was all shot as a single model, as you can see, and so on. And it's simply embedded within WP 3D models. I'm going down to the lobby here, so forth. And that's, we all kind of know that. But this was an office building. Then the same client said, we got another one. We need, and let me find that one up here. And that was this. And he said, we got another one we need you to do, but there's 2 office towers. And there's a lot of exterior workspaces, work courts, game tables, seating, and so forth. And we want to show the whole thing. And I'm not enamored of Matterport's ability to go outdoors with those 360 bubbles that just float around. And besides, I had 2 buildings here. And I don't want to try to, for this client, I didn't want to try to market, one building and then a different tour for the other building. So I opened up 3D Vista and started figuring out how to create, I'll go to the aerial view here. That was the landing view. And you can see this aerial view is essentially been added to 3D Vista as a floor plan. So if you were doing a house or something, you'd have a floor plan and then you could put hotspots in to click around to go to the different rooms and so forth. In this case, I'm using the floor plan as a site image. And you can go to any, the lobbies. These are particular suites that they want to lease out that are vacant currently, both lobbies there. And then there's outdoor areas where there's game tables. There's a chessboard down here outdoors. And so using 3D Vista, I shot 360 panoramas, which you can use to navigate around the outdoor area, look at them.
Kevin, which camera did you use to shoot these?
These were shot on the Z1, the Theta Z1.
Okay, Ricoh Theta Z1.
Yep.
Okay.
I take all my Theta pictures. I shoot using their internal HDR because I just haven't had the gumption yet to bracket RAW and that sort of thing. So this is just the internal HDR, and then I put them through Adobe Lightroom to balance dynamic range and Photoshop for any touch-ups I need. Sometimes I don't have, here I did, but sometimes I don't have a place to hide. So for example, I'd run over to here in this spot and just crouch down into a little ball and photograph myself, but then go back and just paint it out because it's a very flat area, or over here on the concrete, something like that that's very easy to paint out. Anyway, 3D Vista, for example, allowed me to create a little legend. They call this the left panel. And like in one building has a lobby and 1 suite. That's the building that's here in the background. The other building 4 has 2 suites that are available for lease in case anyone's interested here in Los Angeles. This one's about 13,000 square feet. And I found through a little playing around that I could take a Matterport tour and embed it right inside 3D Vista. As you see,
so we're actually looking at 3 different tools here that I can count.
That's correct.
A shell of WP 3D models,
which is this stuff down here.
Yeah. Then
all this stuff is 3D, WP 3D.
In fact, scroll down just so we can see the rest of WP 3D models, if you don't mind. So we have property.
The three agents representing the property.
3 agents. Is there a lead gen form there as well? If we kept
on this one, we opted not to because of the 3 of them. It was easier just to put live links to their emails and phone numbers.
Okay, great.
Just leave it at that.
Great. If you could scroll back
and links to their websites.
So we have WP 3D models as being kind of the shell.
That's
And
right.
the next layer of content, and incidentally, your home 3D.us
US.
logo is, that's part of the WP 3D models.
Correct.
And then we're looking at 3D Vista Virtual Tour Pro.
Everything in this window.
And then when you were just about, you started to show us Matterport. So we actually had 3 different platforms that were being seamlessly integrated into your tour experience. So there's the Matterport tour.
Yeah. This is the suite that's available in the 600 building. And interestingly, let me see if I can locate. I'll do it this way, it'll be faster. Go back to the front door on this suite, I think the front door is over here.
You have a Matter tag in there that takes you back to the picture of the tour?
Yeah, I maybe not on this floor. I'm going to go back to I'm going to take this down and go back to the lobby, for example. That's a better demo. The lobby of building 600, that one that's in the background there. This takes you into the lobby. You can see outside there's the chessboard that you saw from the outside view. So here's the lobby, and you go over by the elevator, and you'll see that there's a button to take you up to Suite 350. And I think this also takes you to the lobby of the other building. Now, note that I'm actually switching Matterport models, and it remains active inside the Lightbox window, inside 3D Vista. It didn't jump out to another tab on Chrome or Safari. And like here, this particular building has 2 suites. Yeah, 770, smaller one. And you click on these things and it will take you up to that suite. And likewise, there you can see there's tags there will take you back to the lobby or to the other suite. So this was very interesting when I discovered the ability to take 3D Vista and embed Matterport models inside it. You can also jump around just by clicking on the links in the aerial view.
So if you go back to that aerial view map, so that's actually being displayed in 3D Vista.
Correct.
With the interactive buttons.
Yeah, it's essentially a floor plan in 3D Vista.
So here there's some different icons. I see links, I see people. So I imagine there is a library of icons that you selected.
3D Vista literally has hundreds of icons inside. The little blue icon, link icons here happen to be stock icons in their set. The little green man is something that I created because in 3D Vista, you can actually create your own icons as well.
Okay, cool. Incidentally, I should also add, as an aerial photographer, a drone photographer, that's a shot that you took. So you've kind of mashed up a whole nother platform, which is your aerial photography.
Well, actually not. No, actually not. This I could have, but this building happens to be very close to LAX. And is not, I could not fly high enough to do a shot like this. So this is actually just, it was pulled either from Google Maps or Apple Maps. I'm not sure which. It was just a screen capture from one of those, one of the satellite views. And then I balanced it through Photoshop and put the shadow to outline the, the office areas. But it was a satellite view shot that I grabbed.
Okay, in the bottom left corner, there's some icons.
Yeah, this is another link. That's the floor plan link, which would normally bring up a floor plan of a house or building. In this case, it's bringing up that floor plan. And this is an info window. Oh, excuse me, that's Google Maps. This shows where it is. It just brings up a Google
So
image.
For clarification, that's in 3D Vista.
Yes.
Virtual Tour Pro. That's not WP 3D models. That's not Matterport.
Correct.
Part of 3D Vista.
This button, the aerial view button I created in 3D Vista, this structure, and you'll see that as I tap these, drop menus occur, and you can select these are the various outdoor amenities and the two different buildings.
Okay.
Uh,
Great. Is there anything else to show us in this tour before you move on to the next one?
No, I think that's enough on this one.
Okay.
Now I'm going to take you to this. This is a piece of land in the Malibu Hills. My wife is a real estate agent, and this is a piece of land. She was contacted by an architect and his wife who said, we want to find a piece of land in Malibu that has a peekaboo view of the ocean. And Marion researched and so forth and found this land for them, and they closed escrow about a month ago.
Congratulations.
We went out to
And
this.
again,
Thank
this is
you.
WP 3D Models WordPress plugin in terms
Correct.
of what we're looking at before we transition to 3D Vista Virtual Tour Pro software.
Everything.
The rest of the WP 3D Models, can you just scroll down just so we can get a little bit of that flavor for any of our.
I mean, this is very simple.
Okay.
This wasn't created to sell this property. This was created just as kind of like a gift to her, Marion's clients, so that they had, because they're going to be spending the next year living in this trailer a lot and building a house on this site.
So instead of steak knives, they got the tour.
Exactly. Well, we also got them a Weber kettle because they wanted to have a barbecue out here. Anyway, launching the 3D Vista tour. This is an aerial panorama shot with my Mavic Air. You can see the hills of Malibu, and it was a nice time of year when the hills are quite green.
And just a point of reference for our viewers, there's latency related to how we do this show. This on a desktop is silky smooth. When we're looking at it, it's a little bit, it's got some latency, but otherwise silky smooth when your client is looking at it rather than through our TV experience here.
Yeah. Now, as 3D Vista is almost infinitely customizable. In this case, I put a floor plan image, which was a straight down aerial shot. And you can see these little buttons here, which are all live links to take you to ground panoramas in these different positions on the property, sort of an outline of the property they purchased here. And you can see the same buttons down here as part of this live panoramic view. If I click on one of them, for example, it'll take me down to that place on the ground. I can also navigate by means of clicking through the thumbnails on the side. You can have things like this. You can not have them. In the last one I did, 3D Vista is just incredibly customizable.
And again, this was shot with a Ricoh Theta Z1.
Yes.
Also through your workflow related to Lightroom for maybe color correction and any retouching of taking you out of the image.
Yep. As you can see, very gray day when I was out there when we first went to the site, but it was still, very interesting.
So you're navigating. We're used as Matterport that we're used to walking through, but these are individual 360 shot with the Ricoh Theta Z1. And then, do you call those hotspots? What do you call it?
Well, the icons are referred to in 3D Vista jargon as hotspots, and whether you have a flat 2D image like a floor plan, or whether you have a panoramic, you then bring it up in the 3D Vista software and decide hotspots. You decide the icon you want to use, you place it, then you link it up so that when you click that or hover that, even you can set it to react when you click. You can set it to react when you hover over it, and you can set multiple actions to be energized when you click or hover over it. So different things happen.
Because all I'm thinking, what I see there is I'm going to go from one 360 to the next 360.
Yeah,
but
this is quite simple. It's basically just moving around the site through 360 panels, and that's all there is to it. I'm working my way up, Dan. Okay, the the next office building that I did, and let me make a side comment. I view our program today principally as, to those willing to dive in, a panacea to the challenge, the problem presented by Matterport's drive to undercut MSPs. If you're doing Matterport, you're now competing against Matterport. I don't know how successful or whether that will fail in the end.
The Matterport Capture Services program
Yes.
announced in 2020, where Matterport is using Matterport Capture technicians to be hired, engaged by Matterport at a rate that some of us would not roll out of bed for.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I see the survival of people who love, like myself, this 3D 360 technology and creation of virtual tours. If you want to thrive, if you not only survive but thrive, 3D Vista for me is the answer, because it is so powerful. We could do 10-hour-long shows and scratch the surface of this software. It's just so flexible. Anyway, but already, and I've only been using the software for about 4 months now, and I'm already at the point that commercial brokers are seeing what I've done among the things that you're seeing today, and are just calling me, because even here in Los Angeles, I have yet to discover a single other person that's doing the kind of stuff that I'm showing you today. And commercial brokerages aren't just trying to sell, I know it sounds ludicrous, a mere $1 or $2 million house. But that's the reality in Los Angeles. Average bungalows can be $1 million here.
Well, Kevin, I imagine for you, you're looking for a way to differentiate yourself from other real estate photographers and from other real estate photographers that are doing 3D or 360 24/7 open house virtual tours. I would imagine that your clients are in the same position, that they want to differentiate themselves from other residential or commercial brokers
Absolutely.
in similar fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. And just as we all know that the pandemic has brought awareness of virtual tours, Matterport being the principal one because of its name recognition, but all virtual tours have come into the consciousness and are starting now to be in the consciousness of even the average layperson on the street, which translates to future home sellers. But the same thing is happening with commercial brokerages.
My impression is that in the last 3 to 5 months of COVID, we've probably experienced 3 to 5 years worth of innovation as a result of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So,
and if you put yourself in the shoes of a commercial broker, we're in the midst of a pandemic. People are working from home. How do you keep these gigantic buildings leased? If not today, then for the future. Some companies, I think it was Twitter or somebody said that they were going to just continue to have all their people work from home. Some companies have said, well, over the next couple of years, we figure half of our people will be working from home. That's a lot of office space not moving. I have a good friend who's a commercial broker here in Los Angeles, hasn't closed one sale in the last 6 months because there's just no demand. Anyway, brokerages are looking at ways to show the properties without people having to go there, same as residential real estate.
All right,
anyway,
show us this property and tell us all the things that are happening, what tools you're using as you go through it.
Yes.
And what features.
This is similar. Yeah, this is similar to the last one in that it's WP3D models. Actually, it's the same company again, Newmark Knight Frank, and the building is right across the street from the NBC studios in Burbank. It has been used, and you can see first floor is just like the lobby and work court. They have space they're looking to lease out second, sixth, and seventh floors. So you may be able to see it's a little bit subtle here, but if you're looking at the picture, you can see there's a little white line around the second floor here. That was added in WP3D, and that entire area, that floor, is a hotspot. You can see.
I'm confused. You said WP3D models.
I'm sorry, 3D Vista.
Vista, yeah.
3D Vista, yes. Everything that you're looking at now, from this line down to this line, are 3D Vista. Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry.
but I like that.
So this is 3D Vista.
That you have this mashup, that you have the agent's contact information is always front and center.
Yep.
You would scroll down.
Yep.
You have this visual storytelling that begins with here's the building itself. Now
Yep.
you overlay text and some graphics so that it's immediately apparent which floors we're talking about. So this is really awesome.
Yeah. So here I did 4 different Matterports for each of these 4 floors they were interested in showcasing. And you can see as my cursor goes over that white line, it lights up with a what do they call this? A tooltip. And so here's the first floor, which is the lobby, and there's a work court out here. Now you're in Matterport once again. Outside working area. I'll take us back to the elevators. It's a very nice building, by the way, if you're looking for space in Burbank. And back here to the elevators, you can see you can click up to the second, 6th, or 7th floors. So let's go up to 7. Click to go.
And I see it's 11,000 square feet.
Yep. In this case, it's unfinished space. That's the elevator lobby, which looks nice, but the rest of it is unfinished. Build out any way you want to. And see if I can, if I can hit one of the things to go all the way down to the end. It even has an outdoor deck. See if I can get out there. There we go. It has sort of a penthouse decked out here, and you can see from that transition that I could shoot from just inside the door while it was sunny, but of course Matterport won't work outdoors, and I don't like those outdoor bubbles that Matterport has, and I wanted people to be able to walk out here, so I ran back to the place as the sun was going down, and did these shots at the end.
Terrific. All right, so take us back
And
to 3D Vista.
Yep.
In this tour, is there anything else to point out?
in this one, there's just direct links, so you can get to the 4 floors this way. You can get to the 4 floors this way. Clicking on any of these does the exact same thing, and it's got the the floor plan and a map, so it's the same. So I'm going to go on to some other more interesting ones. Oh, here's for fun.
So while,
Yes, that's
while Kevin's setting this up, later in the show, we'll have a special offer for We Get Around Network standard and premium members, so stay tuned for that. Well, this looks exciting. Let's jump into this one.
This is a pig. And yes, Gary Dean, the residential real estate agent, said, put the pig on the front. This is likewise WP3D models. Here's the still photographs I took of the home.
Can you take us down to the bottom? I just want to see, okay, we got a map. We got some
Matterport floor plans.
still images. I can't see all the way to the bottom though. Yep, that's what I wanted to see. So we have the agent, the team, and a lead generation form, and then just above their picture, floor plans.
Yeah, these are
Just
floor
click,
plans.
You would click on one of the floor plans.
Yep.
Great. Okay, good. So we can see that.
Those are the Matterport floor plans.
Okay, and then
Still photos, map. description. And this window, once again, is 3D Vista. So when I click it, 3D Vista will launch. In this case, it takes you to an aerial panorama, and I've labeled in the panorama where the house is because it's so covered by trees you can't even see it. The local high school is over here. There's a Theta Z1 panel over there. There are Theta Z1 panels in Old Agoura Park, which is a nice public park here, the 101 freeway, so you know where it is. And this is
because you have context. You know, where is everything? Okay, where's the house, and where are the major landmarks related to the house? In this case, the bike trail, the walking paths, etc.
You can go over there, and you know this is where the walking trails. It's a pretty dry time of year. This is a good demonstration of why we have wildfires in Los Angeles. You can jump up to aerial panorama. This is an aerial panorama over the trailhead. The house is over here. And I put 3 buttons instead of the left panel. This one I did a direct link to tour the house, lot map, aerial view, different things. So let me go the lot map. Now this is an aerial still photo that I shot, and I loaded into 3D Vista as a floor plan. Once again, I outlined the property lines, and you can see the red outlines here. There are 3 barn structures. This is in a neighborhood that's equestrian, and nobody has horses here, but they could. I mean, it's zoned for horses. He instead has pigs. Oh, and I should tell you who he is. This is the home. Now in the market, he's moved out. I haven't met him myself, but this is the home of Rainn Wilson, who played Dwight on The Office. And yes, he has pet pigs. So that link, that link isn't working right now. I'm gonna have to go in there and see what's going on. We've got a little.
I know we got a lot open. Maybe if you do a refresh of your screen there.
It could be.
We got a lot. We have a lot of screens open on your computer.
I should shut down the ones that I've already shown. Oh, they're not even closing.
Yeah. So you may need to even just restart your desktop if necessary.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see what I do here.
You want me to go into that property and you walk me through it?
Now I probably should just reboot Chrome. Uh-oh, I can't even click that.
Okay. All right. So
I'm locked.
Okay.
Let's see if I can.
I'm going to go ahead and drive if you don't mind.
Go right ahead.
Maybe you could just walk me through
URL
what to show.
Yeah. I'm going to try it.
Selected the lot map, and then you wanted to go here.
Yeah. So you can, if you spin around, you'll see hotspots on the ground.
And tell us about this hotspot. Do they always look round? Do they always?
No, I happen to like the pulsating round ones, but as I say, 3D Vista built in has like 200 different kinds of hotspots, and you can design your own, static or moving, static or animated. Yeah, it looks like my whole screen, unfortunately, is misbehaving.
Let's do this, is don't touch a thing so we don't lose our connection somehow, some way, because you're live, and I have some links and you could walk me through your tours.
Yeah.
Right. Was there something else that you wanted to show us on this one?
Yes. Go ahead, spin around to the right and walk over in that direction toward those red chairs.
Am I going the right way?
No, spin around a bit, other way. Of course, there's lag that I'm getting from your side now, particularly because of my machine.
Okay.
You see those red chairs? There's a hotspot by them, and I think that you can. Well, actually, hit the lot map button in the lower left. Okay, it's coming up to me slowly. But if you click on within the red outline of the main house, that will launch the Matterport, which shows the house, an exterior office, and garage that has an apartment above it. So it's a Matterport, once again, contained within a 3D Vista.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so you got the general idea there.
There was a door. Tell us about this icon, enter the house.
That's another way just to launch that's when you're outside in the 3D Vista panels, that icon is a way to launch the Matterport of the house, therefore going inside.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
So if you click on that, it'll just launch the same Matterport.
Yeah, I got you there. Then let's go back to what tour would you like me to go through next?
Okay, let me look at the list here. I think
Mariners Village.
Yeah, let's do that one. marinersvillage360.com.
Okay. Bear with me one sec, please. Okay. And can you see this Google Street on your screen?
I can see, yes, I can see your Google window.
Paste that into place.
There it is. Now, this particular tour, in the upper left, there's a gray box that says aerial view. And that likewise brings up what is the 3D Vista, a floor plan, but it's a, oh, no, excuse me. I'm the aerial map in the left panel, the aerial map is the one I was thinking of. Click on that one. It will bring up a 2D image. Likewise, this came from satellite imagery. I couldn't fly very high here because of its proximity to the Los Angeles International Airport. So I took this off satellite view. The outline there shows the borders of this 20-acre residential, there's 981 apartments here, residential community. This was actually the very first 3D Vista project that I undertook, the one I mentioned that I asked the client, is it okay if you get this in a month and a half? Because I had to learn how to use 3D Vista. All of those, the dotted green lines show ways in which you can walk all around the property. The blue numbered circles are the 4 swimming pools in the property. The cluster of icons in the center are an area called the Village. There's a cafe there. There's a fitness club, a big clubhouse, a lookout tower, all these different things. And there are 3 icons you can see in green that look like a drone, and those go to aerial drone shots at the elevation. You can click on that one if you want. That one kind of, drone view of the village.
Yeah, this is beautiful. And again, is this Ricoh Theta Z1 through your workflow of Lightroom and color correction?
Yes, all of the ground, all of the panels on the ground are Theta Z1. The aerial shots are with my Mavic Air, and the floor plan was from just screen captured from satellite view. If you click around those drone views, you can get to look at the community from different angles in the air. There are 2 versions of this tour. This one was created for the management of the community, whose job it is to keep the apartments rented. There was another version of the tour made for the company that plans to facilitate a possible sale of the property. that tour also has links to 5 of the apartments. But the management tour, which is what you're looking at, the apartments aren't on there. They just wanted people to see the community. You can walk up and down along the channel, which leads to Marina del Rey, which is, I think the largest private marina in the U.S. And there's a contact us information, obviously pop-ups. Yeah, the amenities button goes to here so that you have links to all the different, breakdown and links of all the different places to go up to Lookout Tower. That's fun. They built this Lookout Tower when they put this place actually built about 40 years ago.
Kevin, this is so awesome. I love how you integrate all the different tools and solutions that you've been using for this visual storytelling. So from your aerial, from the 360s, from 3D Vista, WP 3D models, WordPress plugin. This is like great storytelling.
Yeah. I will throw in one caveat. As you know, there is several of the 360 platform programs have added recently the capability of doing live sessions. iSpy has it. 3D Vista has it as of a couple months ago. Nodal View also has it, where you can just launch a tour and essentially do a Zoom type connection with a potential client or a buyer from within the tour itself. I have discovered only last week that when you take like a Matterport and embed it inside a 3D Vista tour, as I have on a number of these, the Matterport part does not work properly on a live tour session. So if I want to share one of these hybrid, I call them hybrid virtual tours. If I want to share one of these with a client or a friend or anything, I need to launch Zoom and do it that way through Zoom, because it works fine that way. And if I built a tour like, for example, the Mariners Village 3 just looking at is entirely 100% 3D Vista. So have that, the live session capability works perfectly. And those internal live sessions are really nice because anyone in the session can request of the host, let me navigate the tour. And they can take over spinning the panels and clicking on the hotspots and opening windows and so forth. And the host of the session can take that back if they want. But that sharing of the navigation control does not work if you've got like Matterports in there.
So somehow you could do the live video chat within 3D Vista, which is native to 3D Vista.
Correct.
Unless you add a Matterport tour, and for some reason that's causing a conflict and breaking something.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's hope that the Matterport people and the 3D Vista people come together to figure out that solution, because obviously what you're doing of mashing up Matterport and 3D Vista is 1 + 1 = 100.
Yeah.
So
it's not, to me, it would be nice if it worked all together, but at the same time, it's not a big loss. So if I want to share one of those combo hybrid tours, I just launch Zoom and I show it. The only thing that I'm giving up is the ability to engage with someone and say, okay, you take control of the screen and walk around. If you really want that capability, then stay entirely within 3D Vista.
Yeah, but you shouldn't have to have one hand tied behind your back, because you want the full arsenal that you have available. And frankly, your clients over time are going to expect to say, well, you know, hey, Kevin, in the last tour, you had the Matterport mashed up in that thing. I love this new live feature. Can I have my Matterport tour too?
Right, right.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
again,
so
let's hope that the Matterport engineers and the 3D Vista engineers have a nice conversation to resolve that, because it really lifts all boats, everybody. It lifts the Vista, Matterport, and you as a service provider.
I have, as a side note to this, I have discovered, since I use WP3D models for the majority of the work that I do, I have also discovered with both 3D Vista and iSpy 360 that when they are embedded within WP3D models, the live session feature does not work. I think that it's based in software in that it works fine if the tours are just iSpy 360 by itself, or just those by themselves, but not within the WP3Ds. I've discussed this with Ross, and it's really a pretty deep problem that has to do with the camera and microphone sharing through wrappers.
Okay, so let's put a period on that topic. Let's go back to, how about the Memorial Park? Can I?
Oh yeah, I can boot that up.
Okay, so let me see.
Hillsidetour.com, I think it is.
Yep, I got it. So you're at the Google screen. I'm going to add that link.
This is one of the largest, memorial parks in Los Angeles. One of the most famous as well, after Forest Lawn. And this is a very simple, it's kind of a work in progress. It's just a simple one, which, like the land sale one, is all aerial panos. There is a video I created for the place about 3 years ago, which has been broken into segments for the different parts of the park, or the full video can be played through the button in the upper right. But there are about a dozen different aerial panos around the park. Those buttons on the right have not been programmed to do anything yet.
Okay.
They're just dead. On the left, you can use that for navigation around to different parts of the hillside area. This place is about 40 acres. It's been a major memorial park in Los Angeles for about 60, 70 years. These panels just allow you to kind of spin around and look
So
at.
here's an example where you've integrated photos within 3D Vista Virtual Tour Pro.
Yeah, you can put a gallery in there. I haven't to talk about since I'm not going to demo this, but to talk about some of because we've just scratched the surface of what 3D Vista can do. For example, if you have a panorama of a living room and there's a big flat screen, you can have live video running on that flat screen that launches the moment that you click onto the panel and can see it. 3D Vista also has the capability of creating what they call live panos, where on their website, there's one shot on top of a building in New York City. And when you click on the pano, it's daytime. And as the pano rotates, it fades to a sunset view and to a nighttime view seamlessly. So it kind of live transitions different times of day.
Talk to me more about, you've demoed a lot of features for 3D Vista Virtual Tour Pro. What features do you know that exist in 3D Vista that you haven't used yet, but are high on your list to figure out how to take advantage of them?
Well, in these tours, I haven't made, I've barely scratched the surface in terms of using their equivalent of matter tags. And their equivalent is, can do everything that matter tags can do and more. For example, if you build a 360 tour of a really nice house, you can attach video, pop-up video, for example, to or just voiceover audio to each individual panel position. And then as you move through the house, you jump into the living room and a voice starts telling you about the living room. You jump into the dining room.
Starts telling you about the living room.
Right.
Yeah.
Panel by panel.
I also believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you can have a 360 video where you transition from a 360 still, and all of a sudden it's as if that still came alive with that agent, for example.
Yeah, essentially, they do have that, and I've watched the video once or twice on the workflow for that. It's not for the faint of heart. You need to know After Effects and some tricky things to do it. But yes, you can, for example, their demo shows a showroom at a winery or something like that, and there's a man standing behind a counter in the 360 panel. If you click on the man, you see no seams. It's completely seamless. There's just a static man standing there. If you click on him, or it can be set to, if you mouse over him, he comes to life and starts talking to you and gesturing and so forth about the place.
It's pretty cool. So you're seasoned photographer, professional real estate photographer. Your workflow includes Photoshop, Lightroom. You got drones, everything. You told us, I think you've been working at 3D Vista you've been working on 3D Vista projects for maybe 3 to 4 months?
3 to 4 months, yeah.
Do you feel like you're halfway there? You're 10%? How far along?
I'd say I feel kind of halfway there in terms of what maybe even a little bit more than halfway there in terms of what I need to learn to do 90% of the work that I will be doing with 3D Vista. There's a significant amount of work, including in After Effects, that needs to be done to make use of that live presenter within a 360 panel technique. At some point, I'll probably learn how to do those live panels where it transitions from different times of day together and how to line them up perfectly, which is part of the tricky process.
If you're 50% of the way there, at what point in the learning curve did you feel like you could actually create and sell a tour? So for example, you actually got an order that involved creating a tour with 3D Vista before you ever used the software. I think even before you downloaded the software.
That is correct. I am very foolhardy.
So how long did it act? Well, you had an understanding client who had a problem.
Yes, I did.
With a trusted relationship that felt that, okay, I trust Kevin. If he thinks he can do this, then I have confidence that he can do that. I do have the time frame of a month to 6 weeks. And so there was the give and take between trusted colleagues. I get that. So how long did it take you to feel like you could deliver that? Well, how long did it take you to deliver that first tour?
Yeah, well, it took me about 6 weeks to deliver the tour. And then maybe we spent another week or two kind of like proofing it, because it was a huge, it had 165 Theta Z1 panels, mostly outdoors, but maybe about 25% of them indoors, apartments and, the cafe and, clubhouse and so forth. But it had 165 panels, several aerial panels, and I was learning, literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hotspot links. So the proofing of and finding broken links and so forth took a couple extra weeks beyond that. And the client was great. I'd say, take a look at this one. And he'd come back, I found 5 broken links. Here they are. So he was playing with it all the time. He was just wonderful. He was up in San Francisco. Anyway, I will tell you, I'm an experienced user of several Adobe products. I work on Adobe Premiere. I'm a pretty advanced Premiere user. Lightroom and Photoshop, I'm a pretty advanced user. After Effects, I'm a novice, but I can poke my way around. Those are the major, likewise Illustrator I barely use, so I'm not very good at it. But those programs, anybody who uses Photoshop, for example, knows that it's a very, very deep program. It can do anything you ever need to do with a photograph. And if you're starting out and you open Photoshop for the first time and you poke buttons for 2 hours, you probably say to yourself, I will never learn how to do this, because it is so deep and so complex and there's so many things you can do with it. And, you know, in my experience with Photoshop, I probably use less than half of what it's capable of. Anyway, it was like that when I opened up 3D Vista for the first time. And within the first few days, I realized I was trying to learn a very complex program, even if I had 6 weeks, still on a deadline. And I was doing everything pretty much for the first time. So I reached out and found someone very experienced with 3D Vista and said, will you help me get through this? And I spent repeatedly hours being tutored by an experienced 3D person, 3D Vista person over in the UK. And he was wonderful. And I hope, I believe and I hope that I compensated him adequately, because I immediately, I wouldn't have survived that job. I mean, he told me that he's been doing 3D Vista for 4 or 5 years, and the most complex tour that he's put together was about 1/4 the size of the one that I was doing for my first.
Oh, you talk about the number of 360s that you shot. That sounded pretty ambitious just from a content creation standpoint. Never mind how you were going to display it, just actually shooting the content and then keeping track of it and logging it
and organizing it and so forth.
So I'm going to guess this whole discussion about, well, there is even for a professional real estate photographer that uses a lot of sophisticated tools, there is still a steep learning curve. So I imagine that's both good and bad.
I think it is good and bad. Absolutely. Couldn't be better said. It is bad in the sense that put your seatbelt on and do this when you've got some downtime. Maybe even turn down a couple jobs so you can really dive in and do and learn this thing. 3D Vista does have dozens and dozens of excellent tutorials on the 3D Vista channel on YouTube, and they're superbly done. It doesn't cover everything, but it covers a lot of stuff. I do know that I'm in regular contact with 3D Vista, which, by the way, was developed in Spain, and its first version, I understand, came out in 1999. So they've been working on this program for 20 years, and that attests to its complexity, and they're constantly doing. They are working currently on a comprehensive, I don't know whether it's PDF or whatever, the manual for the whole program. But they've been adding so many features in the last 18 months that they've just, the manual had to come after they got all those features added.
3 words to describe good, 3 words to describe bad.
Okay, the bad part is you got a big learning curve. So you've got to really devote yourself. It's also wonderful brain exercise, because with 3D Vista, you essentially have to build it in your mind first and then build it on the computer. You've got to figure out how these panels are going to work together, like that Mariner's Tour, that overhead thing with all the green dotted lines of the pathways and so forth, and how everything's going to interact and so forth. And then you build it. The good part. You master this program, and I don't know who's listening today, but you master this program, and in your market, you're going to be one of a kind. And when it comes to large office projects and commercial real estate, so forth, everything that is beyond what just go shoot a Matterport can do, you're not going to have any competition. And competition is what drives prices through the basement. We know that from Matterport. That's what they're trying to do to us. So this is your insurance policy against low prices and obsolescence. This is not easy, but man, is it worth it.
I think that's so awesome. It's like, okay, there's a steep learning curve, but if you can climb up Mount Everest, there are not a whole lot of people behind you. And as you said, you're going to own your market, and you're going to set your prices of what you charge. So if particularly commercial real estate agents, brokers, if they want the kind of tour that you're showing, then you're really, as you said, in the greater Los Angeles, you're the one of a kind. So this is, you set out a price. If that's what they want as a deliverable, there's not 10 other people behind you quoting on the exact same project.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think sometime in the We Get Around Network forum, there's this discussion about, oh, you know, whether it's this platform or that platform, it's, you know, it's super easy, it's super fast for a photographer to shoot. The flip side is it's somewhat easy and fast for a real estate agent to shoot.
Or the other photographer down the street.
Or the other photographer. So if you can master 3D Vista Virtual Tour Pro software, it's likely you have no competition in your marketplace. And as a content creator, if you're doing photos, video, aerial, Matterport, floor plans, virtual staging, let's just call it, you know, full price of whatever you're going to charge, plus whatever gets on top of that for everything being seamlessly integrated.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. It's 3D Vista is truly only limited by your own creativity. You're not limited. We know what Matterport can't do. You can't add aerial panels. You can't do outside very well. You can't even self-host, which of course 3D Vista you can as well. By the way, 3D Vista offers their own company hosting, and you can also self-host.
What were we looking at as we looked at your tour?
You are looking at some of those tours. My workflow has become now one of I have bought I think 3 gigabytes of space on the 3D Vista hosting site, because it's very easy. Every time I build and then I upload to publish, it'll build it onto their servers, and it's very quick and simple. Once a tour is completely done and the client says, great, I'm going to start using it, then I shift those files onto my own hosting, freeing up some of that 3 gigabytes, or yeah, whatever it is, 3 gigabytes, yeah, I think it is, that I have. So for the next future project, the Mariners Village tour is just shy of 1 gigabyte, the entire tour with 165 pan.
Why not continue with 3D Vista Virtual Tour Pro?
Because the cost of their hosting is considerably more expensive. That's one reason. There's the other reason, which is just as important. You self-host on your own, you know, WordPress hosting, and it helps your SEO. And thanks to the dedication of Glenn Tremaine, who built out my home 3D site 4 years ago.
Nail Soup Media, active in the We Get Around Network forum.
Absolutely. Thanks to Glenn and his staff, working, you know, tweaking and nurturing my SEO for 4 years. I get calls, not every day, but several times a week. I get calls from people who have simply gone online and typed in Matterport Los Angeles because they're looking for somebody to do it here. You type in Matterport Los Angeles, I'm the top of page 1. Except for the paid ads, I'm the top of page 1 and have been for 2 years.
.us,
home3d.us. And so in my market, I just get calls. And in this commercial area, I'm not really thinking. I am going to figure out some kind of marketing to make what I'm doing here, to put it in front of more commercial brokerage and property management companies.
I think that's happening.
Right now, I'm just getting calls.
Yeah, well, what's happening, I could imagine, is the commercial brokers are showing it to other commercial brokers that have clients. And those commercial brokers are going, wow, I've never seen that before. That's
exactly
great. Who did that for you?
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. I'm getting as much repeat work without even doing any marketing. I'm getting as much repeat work as I can handle.
That's awesome. That's rocking. Kevin, what question haven't I asked you that I should ask you about 3D Virtual Tour Pro software or the hosting?
What I had intended to do before my screen locked out was
Kevin, had your screen not locked up, what would you have shown?
The only other thing I would have shown you is the 3D Vista interface screen, and basically, give you a little taste to its layout and that sort of thing. But we could do that on another day when I'm not cluttering up my RAM with multiple pages on Chrome. My whole I can see you fine, but my whole screen is locked right now.
That's good. Please don't touch a thing.
I won't touch it.
We'll keep our connection live. So I did mention it earlier in the show that we have a special offer for We Get Around Network Standard and Premium members. And that's if you use our special link to buy 3D Vista Virtual Tour Pro software, you can save $60. So simply, if you want that link and you're a WGAN Standard or Premium member, just private message me in the We Get Around Network forum. I'll send you that link. And you want to know if?
Yeah, no, I just thought of something else that's I think important for people to understand, which is very, very different about 3D Vista. Pretty much, like Matterport, iSpy 360, most of these services are subscription. 3D Vista is not. You buy the software. If you want to use their hosting, there's an annual fee per gigabyte or something like that, but you buy the software. I forget what the price is right now.
So let's see, I'm on the 3D Vista page just to check. It's very, very interesting. I'm actually looking for where to buy it. I'm so used to going using a link, but here's the link. In euros, it's 499 euros. 499 euros. Hey Siri. Hey Siri.
That's about
499 euros is how many US dollars?
Around 600?
499 euros is $589.76.
So $590 US, and if you use our link, Standard and Premium members, you'll save $60. And to Kevin's point, you buy it once and you're done.
You're done, absolutely.
How about updates? They charge in for updates?
They have, since I've had it, they have had 3 or 4 major updates, and it's just update. They may at some point have a major enough one that they charge a little bit extra for, but this company likes the model of you buy it once, and then you're part of our club. We're gonna update it. We're gonna improve it. We're gonna add features. You can our hosting, or you can self-host. It is to Matterport service providers and all the complaints they've had over the years about Matterport. Basically, 3D Vista is doing it all the right way. I would have much preferred to just, buy Matterport once and be able to self-host and make tours. And, I like that approach personally.
So if someone was watching our show who was thinking about getting 3D Vista Virtual Tour Pro software, what's the cautionary note about what level of skill do you have to have in order to go dive into this program?
If I would say, although the skills you need to actually, the people who will learn 3D Vista fastest are probably people who already know a fair amount about web programming, building websites. And I include people who build websites using things like Squarespace and stuff like that, where it's very template based, so forth. In other words, 3D Vista, you do not need to know any coding whatsoever. It is all it's all graphical user interface. It's all pictures and buttons and, you know, icons and things like that. You don't need to know any coding at all. Whew, because I don't know any coding at all. I, I know,
Yes, but it sounds like this was still like you had to take a lot of deep breaths, and the fact that it took you 6 weeks to deliver your first project
with help.
with
Now it was a
with
big project.
with hours of help. Did you
Yeah.
feel that this was way over your head and you bit off? You might have stopped had you not had a real client paying you real money. That you might have said, I'm not going to learn this. This is too hard.
Well, there were days, there were days on that project where I'm not sure I'm going to survive this. I mean, not really. I knew I'd fight my way through, and I had an excellent helper who I compensated. He didn't ask for it up front, but I was so grateful for his help. And there were times that I went to sleep nervous about whether I'd ever get this thing working perfectly because of the complexity. But it is, anyone who is at least an intermediate user of Photoshop or After Effects or Premiere knows the same feeling, because when you're learning these programs, they're deep. There's a lot of customization. If you use iSpy 360 or Nodal View, here's the panel. Where do you want to put the hotspot? It's there. It goes to this image. Done. In 3D Vista, select from among 200 icons. Place the icon. Then,
Are there any pre-built templates to say?
yes. Oh, yes. There are lots of, matter of fact, everything I've done has been using pre-built templates. I have customized them in different ways, but like the tours that I showed that had a left panel, like the Mariners tour has a left panel that runs all the full length down the left-hand side. Some of the other office panels had a little upper left-hand corner box. Those are all templates. And I can customize the templates by adding more and less icons, whether there's a pop-up secondary screen or whether the whole screen changes to a secondary hierarchy. When every time you have a hotspot, there's a button that says actions, and you tap on that, and then you decide what actions will occur when that's clicked on. For example, there are actions like open a panel. There's actions, close another window. There's actions to open things, to hide things, to launch a video, all different kinds of things. And you could have 6 different actions tied to one click. It's very, very complex if you want to get there.
Awesome. I think 3 things come out of what I'm hearing today. First, if we have any viewers that are 3D Vista service providers to photographers, please reach out to me, because I suspect that there's a number of our community that would love to take all the digital assets and send it to you to create the tour for us.
Yeah, particularly for commercial sites that
That's right.
can't be well covered by Matterport.
So I'm if you are a 3D Vista Virtual Tour Pro software ninja and you love creating these tours and you want to be connected to photographers that would be super happy to engage you to do all the back end, because some of us just love the shooting of the content, then please reach out to me, wganforum.com. I'm not hard to find, wganforum.com. I think my second takeaway is how awesome it is that this is such a that this program is so robust, but yet it does have this steep learning curve for those professional photographers that are willing, like you, to invest the time and the energy to, at least in your case, half master it, with the other half still to come, because now you have zero competition, literally. I think of this as blue ocean marketing.
It is.
I encourage everyone to Google that term, blue ocean marketing, because many of us who are doing Matterport are in a red ocean, and maybe some of us would describe it as a race to the bottom in terms of pricing of what
Absolutely.
we can charge, because there's other Matterport service providers offering something similar at yet a lower price. So I think in the blue ocean, you have there's no blood. In the blue ocean, there's no one else there. It's just you. And so that actually is Los Angeles based Home3D.us founder, Kevin Dole. How exciting is that, that you, in a market as big as Los Angeles, you likely have no competition for what you're doing. I think that's awesome. And
It
so,
is.
and my third kind of thing I just wanted to say was, Kevin, thank you so much for taking the community through the 3D Vista experience. I think there's many of us that, we've been reading the We Get Around Network forum, and, people keep, entering, typing, talking about 3D Vista, but no one has really kind of give us examples, give us a little deep dive. How hard is it to learn? And I think the takeaway from this show is 3D Vista Virtual Tour Pro software is awesome, but there's a steep
Yes.
learning curve. And if you can get over that learning curve, like Kevin, you too could probably own your space. And how exciting is that? So
The comment that I'll,
let me just finish that thought.
oh, yeah.
So Kevin, I am super happy. You've been on our show a number of times, and to hear you say the phone's ringing, the emails are coming in, the clients are reaching out to me, how great is that, as opposed to outbound having to go find clients are finding you. And I'm not going to ask you anything about pricing, but I suspect that you are earning far more offering your services, or at least you're figuring out how to charge way more than anyone in your space who's doing any of these things individually, who's doing Matterport, photos, aerial, floor plan, 360s, because you've delivered digital assets in a visual storytelling way that's so meaningful for people, particularly today through the pandemic, where you can't perhaps go visit a place, or you don't even want to visit a place
Right.
in person, that you now can do your job for in behalf of your clients, of leasing, buying spaces, of touring the space in a way that just logically makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. The last parting words. The learning curve is steep, and that's the best part of all. Because the learning curve is steep, you're not going to have competition. Because a lot of people just, let's face it, a lot of Matterport providers do nothing but Matterport. They go out there and they charge it up and push the button. And those are the people that you want to differentiate yourself from, I believe. And that steep learning curve is your insurance that you're doing something special.
That's awesome. Kevin, thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, my pleasure, Dan. Always a pleasure.
We've been visiting with Kevin Dole. Kevin is the founder of Los Angeles-based Home3D.us. He's been on the show a number of times. Always happy to visit with Kevin. We've been recording today's show. We will post it in the We Get Around Network forum. If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or wherever you're watching our program and you missed some portion of it, we get around network forum.com, or simply WGANforum.com. On behalf of Kevin Dole in Los Angeles, I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network forum in Atlanta, and you've been watching WGAN TV live at